I need to get something off my chest, and maybe I'm gonna ruffle some feathers, but I mean, what are we gonna do about it? I think I'm in my feelings because it's election season in Colombia, and election season tends to bring out the funny in people. Look, the world is getting more expensive and gentrified. A lot of big cities are complaining about this. New York, Mexico City, Barcelona, Lisbon, and of course, Medellín is not the exception. The prices in Medellín have skyrocketed over the past 5 years, and everyone is blaming everything and everyone else about it except themselves. On one hand, you will hear that the landlords are predatory and that they are arbitrarily raising the prices because there's an international demand for the apartments, which is true. And then on the other hand, you will hear that the blame always gets placed on the immigrant. And in this case, by immigrant, I mean the dollar-based immigrant. I think that they're responding to us, the dollar-based immigrant. I'm not saying that it is completely our fault, but to absolve ourselves from blame is absolutely ridiculous. Time and time again, in these expat groups, you will see people looking for apartments and posting their USD budgets. And these groups aren't exclusive to expats. There are locals in there as well. And then we have the wonderful Instagram and YouTube influencers that love to advertise how cheap and comfortable you can live in however many $1,000s. And I mean, how do you think property owners are going to react to this kind of content and these kinds of posts? Serious question here. Why wouldn't they want to go after more for their properties? I mean, and of course, you can argue that landlords could have different rates for foreigners, but I mean, how effective do you think that that's going to be? How long is it going to take for foreigners to realize that they can actually ask a local a favor and get an apartment for them? Or even worse, the landlord ends up with a discriminatory lawsuit in their hands when they could just raise the price for all and avoid themselves a series of problems. I don't know, but I think that whose fault is it game is a never-ending argument. But it got me thinking about the rising cost of living in the United States and the economic insecurity in the country, which is making Latin America a really attractive place for many of us, first-generation Americans. You know, the ones that are eligible for double citizenship, we're looking for mobility, affordability, and most importantly, cultural belonging. And this video is dedicated to you. Hi, my name is Rebecca. I was born and raised in New York City by Colombian parents, but I have been living in Medellín since 2018. I am a tour guide here, so if you're interested in visiting Medellín and would like to walk the streets of the city with me, I have left all of the information in the description of this video. I also make videos about my life here in Medellín and things first-generation American. So if that sounds interesting to you, you can consider subscribing. If you're enjoying my videos and would like to contribute, you can do so by buying me a coffee. I have left the link in the description of this video also. Anyway, I think that we are a special bunch because we grew up not really identifying as Americans. We generally identified ourselves with our parents' country of origin. Our skin color, our facial features just triggered everyone to ask us where we were from. And saying that we were American was blasphemous. You know, our parents emphasized where they came from, the traditions, the language, the music, the food, the values. We listened to their stories and the great old times back in their country. You know, when grandma was alive and the family was united, you know, those times. We inherited memories that essentially didn't belong to us, right? We also had to meet the expectations of the family. We had to work and we had to sacrifice a lot of things. So we were raised within a culture while living in the United States. But we are undeniably 100% American. And I didn't get to realize just how American I was until I left the United States to live in Colombia. We are shaped by American standards. I mean, we speak English And we went through the American education system. We absorbed American media, American sense of individuality, success, dating, therapy, and of course, identity. Our references, our consumption habits, our communication style were all shaped in the United States, even though in our houses it might have been culturally different. Many of us spent our summer vacations as kids in our parents' country of origin, and we brought that American culture with us and exchanged it with our cousins and maybe the neighborhood kids. You know, the music, and everybody wanted to hear us speak English. You remember those days? And let's be honest, there was a certain element of coolness because we were from the United States. We were fully aware of Latin America's admiration for the North, even when we were kids. And we believed it too. And so we make the decision to come back home, right? The great return. You know, I think that there's this perception about Latin America that things are more authentic here. You know, the air is cleaner, the fruit is organic, people are buena gente. Because naturally, as Americans, we are obsessed with authenticity. But does that mean that we have been inauthentic our whole lives? I don't know. Maybe authentic is that which is not touched by American ambition. Or maybe we want to put that distance between us and the authentic because maybe we don't want them to learn the same game that we learned. I don't know. That's a topic for discussion. Let me know what you guys think in the comments about that. But anyway, we have arrived and we don't wait 2 seconds to publish and make our newfound life in the global South public. We're making carefully curated videos about just how fantastic our new life is, and we love to show how far our dollar goes here. And of course, that is followed by trying to make a business out of our new lifestyle. And I mean, that's fine. Do your thing. We're all trying to figure this shit out. But what gets to me is the preaching and this moral superiority that some of us come with. Some of us are very public and vocal about our outrage with certain figures in the United States, like the Mark Zuckerbergs or the Jeff Bezos. And we love to show people that we're on the right side, that we're with the Bernies, the Mamdanis, and the AOCs. But here's the thing. You know that every time that we post content about our wonderful and glorious lives here and show people how far our dollar stretches and how comfortable we are, there is a tribe of local Colombians that are coming after us in the comments, expressing their outrage about how our content is affecting their lives. Some of us delete those comments, but you know what I'm talking about. And we're out here acting baffled, like we don't know what we did wrong. I mean, after all, we're just trying to help the economy. Let me just take my money elsewhere if you don't want it, we said. And we're very quick to justify our behavior. You know, we bring that very American emotional attachment to the immigrant struggle. Well, my parents worked really hard. My money is earned. I worked hard for this. I don't know. I think we need to do a better job at looking around our new environment. Because one of the things that I think that we didn't do was our research. I think that we ignore the realities of Latin America, particularly in my case, Colombia. And I think that maybe it's because we think that the only authentic predators are in the United States. So there's this thing called the Gini coefficient index. And what it does is that it measures the inequality around the world. And it works on a basis of 2 numbers, 0 and 1. 0 would be the perfect equality and 1 would be the perfect inequality. And while we talk about how great our lives are in Colombia and we complain about the oligarchy in the United States, we don't realize that Colombia is the third, yes, the third most unequal country in the world according to Gini coefficient index. South Africa is at number 1 with 0.64 and the United States has a 0.44 Gini coefficient. And one of the greatest contributors to Colombia's inequality is the violence. Colombia has been at war since nearly the inception of the republic. A lot of people think that the violence is due to the drug wars, and while that is true, that makes part of modern history. The violence in Colombia has a history that starts way before the 1970s drug trafficking wars. Another interesting fact about Colombia is that the 6 most richest people in the country make up 12% of the nation's GDP. That is outrageous. And I'll compare it to the big tycoons in the US. If we take the 6 most richest people in the United States, they only make up about 6 or 6.5% of the country's GDP. Okay, so let's talk about politics a little bit since it is election season. When this current government was elected in 2022, a lot of people, I mean a lot of people, said that it was the end of the country as we knew it. And in many regards, that is true. People also thought that the government was going to start expropriating them of their assets. And well, the richest man in Colombia, Jaime Gilinski, went from a net worth of 3.6 billion to 14.7 billion in this current administration. It would literally take a person that earns a Colombian minimum salary 3 million years to reach Jaime Gilinski. And it would take a middle-class, graduated, professional individual that earns about 5.6 million Colombian pesos, 500,000 years to reach Jaime Gilinski. But then again, only the authentic predators are in the US, right? I think it's really tough for us because we leave the United States thinking that we're leaving an oppressive system that made it impossible for us to survive there. And we distance ourselves from being American because we associate American as being privileged and white. But being American has nothing to do with race. It's a culture like any other. And that culture defines how we move through the world. I think we need to do a better job at realizing that in order to avoid becoming the people that we say we hate. We need to do better, people. Anyway, I'm glad I got that off of my chest. Let me know in the comments what you think. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.